from each point of transfer. 3. Signs on emergency shutdown devices shall be permanently affixed. 4. Signs bearing the words natural gas shall be located on all operating sides of dispensers, and 5. Signs indicating the licensee's name shall be located at either the vehicle dispenser or refueling ARCA, or at the loading or unloading area. Figure 16 Tax Section 14.2101, G. 5, Table 1. Requirements for signs. Red capital letters at least 2 high on white background, no smoking or open flames. Red capital letters at least 4 high on white background, flammable gas. Black capital letters at least 4 high on white background, no trespassing. Authorized personnel only. Capital letters at least 2 high flammable gas. White capital letters at least 2 high on red background, emergency shutdown. White capital letters at least 2 high on red background, emergency pump/compressor shutdown. Letters at least 2 high, pressure relief device. Set at. Letters at least 4 high. Name of licensee. Railroad Commission of Texas. LNG vehicle dispenser, refueling area. Emergency shutdown. Devices. LNG loading or unloading area. H. At least 2 monitoring sensors shall be installed at all stationary installations to detect hazardous levels of LNG. Sensors shall activate at not more than 25% of the lower flammability limit of LNG. If the level exceeds 1/4 of the LFL, the sensor shall either shut the system down or activate an audible and visual alarm. The number of sensors to be installed shall comply with the area of coverage for each sensor and the size of the installation. The sensors shall be installed and maintained in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions. LNG Safety Rules, 129. Railroad Commission of Texas, $14.2104 Uniform Safety Requirements. A. In order to determine the safety of a container, LP, gas operations may request the manufacturer's data report on that container. LP, gas operations may also request that containers and assemblies be examined by a Category 15, 20, or 50 licensee equipped for and experienced in the testing of LNG containers and equipment. The Category 15, 20, or 50 licensee shall file a comprehensive report on its findings with LP, gas operations. This requirement may be applied even though an acceptable LNG Form 2023 is on file with LP, gas operations. B. Any stationary LNG container previously in LNG service which has not been subject to continuous LNG pressure or inert gas pressure shall be inspected by a currently licensed Category 15, 20, or 50 licensee to determine if the container shall be leak, tested or certified. A copy of the inspector's written report shall be filed with LP, gas operations. The container shall not be used until LP, gas operations grants approval. C. Any stationary LNG container which has been subject to continuous LNG or inert gas pressure need not be tested prior to installation provided an acceptable LNG Form 2023 is filed with LP, gas operations when LNG Form 2500 is submitted for any facility requiring submission of plans and specifications. D. When installed for use, containers shall not be stacked one upon another except when designed by the manufacturer for stacking. Section 14.2107 Stationary LNG Storage Containers. A. In order to determine the safety of a container, LP, gas operations may request the manufacturer's data report on that container. LP, gas operations may also request that containers and assemblies be examined by a Category 15, 20, or 50 licensee equipped for and experienced in the testing of LNG containers and equipment. The Category 15, 20, or 50 licensee shall file a comprehensive report on its findings with LP, gas operations. This requirement may be applied even though an acceptable LNG Form 2023 is on file with LP, gas operations. B. Any stationary LNG container previously in LNG service which has not been subject to continuous LNG pressure or inert gas pressure shall be inspected by a currently licensed Category 15, 20, or 50 licensee to determine if the container shall be leak, tested or certified. A copy of the inspector's written report shall be filed with LP, gas operations. The container shall not be used until LP Gas Operations grants approval. 1. Manufacturer's name and date of construction of container. 2. Nominal liquid capacity, in barrels or gallons. 3. Design pressure, in sig, for methane gas at the top of the container. 4. Maximum permissible density of liquid to be stored. 5. Maximum level to which container may be filled with stored liquid. 6. Maximum level to which container may be filled with water for test, if applicable, and 7. Minimum temperature in degrees Fahrenheit for which the container was designed. 130 LNG safety rules. Railroad Commission of Texas. C. Openings on storage containers shall be marked with a sign or tag showing the function of the opening. The markings shall remain readable during all operating conditions and shall be located to minimize the effects of possible frosting. D. Shop, fabricated and shop, tested LNG containers shall be leak tested to 90% of the pressure relief valve setting after being installed and filled with LNG. Section 14.2110 LNG container installation distance requirements. A. LNG containers shall be installed in accordance with the following minimum distance requirements. 1. Containers with aggregate water capacities up to 15 to 540 gallons shall be located at least 25 feet from any building, property line, stationary ignition sources, or other above-ground flammable liquids. 2. Containers with aggregate water capacities from 15.541 to 93.240 gallons shall be located at least 50 feet from any building, property line, stationary ignition sources, or other above-ground flammable liquids. 3. Containers with aggregate water capacities of 93.241 gallons or more shall be located at least 100 feet from any building property line, stationary ignition sources, or other above-ground flammable liquids. 4. Underground LNG containers shall be located at least 15 feet apart, regardless of size. 5. LNG dispensers or points or transfer shall be located at least 25 feet from the nearest building not associated with the LNG facility and from any line of adjoining property that can be built upon. B. Operating industrial trucks with only one container mounted on each truck may be stored inside buildings. Extra containers shall not be stored inside buildings. Operating industrial trucks shall be stored in an area that will reduce the likelihood of an accident. Service valves shall be closed whenever a truck with a mounted container is stored. A venting system shall be used any time a vehicle not in operation is inside a building to allow safe relief valve venting. C. Stationary LNG containers and piping shall not be placed in the area directly beneath or above an electric transmission, distribution, or customer service line in the area 6 feet to either side of that line. If this distance is not adequate to prevent the line and the associated voltage from contacting the LNG container in the event of breakage of any conductor, then other suitable means of protection designed and constructed to prevent such contact with the container may be used if approval is received from LP Gas Operations. The request for approval shall be in writing and shall specify the manner in which the container will be protected from contact, including specifications for the materials to be used. If LP Gas Operations does not approve the proposed protection, then the container shall be located a sufficient distance from the line to prevent such contact. Section 14.2113 Maintenance tanks. A. Stationary installations which include vehicle maintenance areas may have a container permanently installed outside the maintenance area to remove LNG from a vehicle if the removal of the LNG is necessary to perform maintenance or repairs. The container shall comply with the following requirements. 1. The container shall have a maximum water capacity of 200 gallons, and 2. The transfer of LNG from the vehicle into the maintenance container shall take place outside any building. LNG Safety Rules, 131. Railroad Commission of Texas. B. The container mounted on the mobile refueling vehicle described in 14.2307 of this title, relating to indoor fueling, may be used to store fuel from a vehicle requiring maintenance provided both the mobile refueling vehicle and the vehicle requiring maintenance are outside any building during the transfer of fuel.
Railroad Commission of Texas. B. The container mounted on the mobile refueling vehicle described in Section 14.2307 of this title, relating to indoor fueling, may be used to store fuel from a vehicle requiring maintenance provided both the mobile refueling vehicle and the vehicle requiring maintenance are outside any building during the transfer of fuel. Section 14.2116 Transfer of LNG. Venting of LNG is prohibited as part of routine activities, except for the following. 1. As provided for in Section 14.2119 of this title, relating to transport vehicle loading and unloading facilities and procedures, and 2. Through a tricoque installed on a stationary storage tank during filling of the tank. B. LNG being transferred into stationary storage containers shall be compatible in composition or temperature and density with the LNG already in the container. When making transfers into fueling facility containers, the LNG shall be transferred at a pressure that will not exceed the set pressure of the pressure relief device. C. When the composition or temperature and density are not compatible, measures shall be taken to prevent an excessive rate of vapor evolution. D. At least one licensed or certified individual shall be in attendance while unloading is in progress. C. Ignition sources shall not be permitted within 25 feet of the transfer area or within the distances specified as classified areas in Table I of Section 14.2513 of this EL, relating to electrical equipment, while transfer of LNG is in progress. 1. Measuring instruments shall be provided to determine that containers are not overfilled. Section 14.2119 Transport vehicle loading and unloading facilities and procedures. Transport vehicle loading and unloading facilities shall meet the following requirements. 1. Rack structure shall be constructed of non-combustible material such as steel or concrete. 2. Transfer piping, pumps, and compressors shall be installed with the following protective measures. A. Protection from damage from vehicle movements in compliance with the guardrail and fencing requirements of 514.2101 of this title, relating to uniform protection requirements. B. Isolation valves at both ends of containers with less than 2.000 gallon capacity, and a remote operating valve automatic closure or check value to prevent backflow on containers of 2.000 gallons or more capacity. C. Isolation valving and bleed connections to depressurize hoses and arms and minimize venting before disconnecting. D. Hoses and arms equipped with a shutoff valve at the free end. 132. LNG safety rules.
Railroad Commission of Texas. E. A check valve on piping for liquid transfer to minimize accidental release, and
Railroad Commission of Texas. E. A check valve on piping for liquid transfer to minimize accidental release, and F. A line relief valve between every pair of isolation valves. 3. Where multiple products are loaded or unloaded at the same location, loading arms, hoses and manifolds shall be marked to indicate the product or products handled by catch system. 4. Operating status indicators shall be provided in the transfer area. B. Written procedures covering normal transfer and emergency operating procedures shall be available for all transfer operations. The procedure shall be kept current and available to all employees engaged in transfer operations. C. Prior to beginning transfer operations, the following checks shall be made. 1. Gauge readings shall be obtained or inventory established to prevent overfilling of the receiving vessel. 2. Transfer connections shall be checked to ensure they are gas tight and liquid tight. 3. Unless required for transfer operations, LNG or flammable liquid transport vehicle engines shall be turned off. Brakes shall be set and wheels chocked to prevent movement of the vehicle prior to connecting for transfer. The engine shall not be started until the transport vehicle has been disconnected and any released vapors have dissipated. 4. Prior to loading LNG into a transport vehicle tank which does not have a positive pressure or is not in exclusive LNG service, a test shall be made to determine the oxygen content in the receiving container. If the oxygen content in either case exceeds 1.0% by volume, the container shall not be loaded until suitably purged. 5. An LNG transport vehicle shall be positioned prior to transfer so that it can exit the area without backing when the transfer operation is complete. D. During transfer operations, the following checks shall be made. 1. Level shall be checked during the transfer operations. 2. Pressure and temperature conditions shall be observed during the transfer operations. If any unusual variance in pressure occurs, transfer shall be stopped until the cause has been determined and corrected. No repair shall be performed on the transfer system while transfer is taking place. Section 14.2122 Transfer systems, including piping, pumps, and compressors, used for LNG and refrigerants. Transfer systems and pumps used for transfer of LNG and refrigerants shall be provided with means for pre-cooling to reduce the effect of thermal shock and overpressure. Check valves shall be provided as required to prevent backflow in transfer systems and shall be located as close as practicable to the point of connection to any system from IHICH Baculamito Sur LNG Safety Rules 133.
Railroad Commission of Texas. C. In addition to a locally mounted device to shut down the pump or compressor drive, a readily accessible, remotely located device shall be provided at least 25 feet away from the equipment to shut down the pump or compressor in case of emergency. The device shall be marked in accordance with the table in 14.2101 of this title, relating to uniform protection requirements. Remotely located pumps and compressors used for loading or unloading tank vehicles shall be provided with shut-down controls at the transfer area and at the pump or compressor site.
Railroad Commission of Texas. C. In addition to a locally mounted device to shut down the pump or compressor drive, a readily accessible, remotely located device shall be provided at least 25 feet high from the equipment to shut down the pump or compressor in case of emergency. The device shall be marked in accordance with the table in section 14.2101 of this title, relating to uniform protection requirements. Remotely located pumps and compressors used for loading or unloading tank vehicles shall be provided with shutdown controls at the transfer area and at the pump or compressor site. Pressure gauges shall be installed on each pump and compressor discharge. Valves shall be installed so that each pump or compressor can be isolated for maintenance. Where pumps or centrifugal compressors are installed for operation in parallel, each discharge line shall be equipped with a check valve. 1. Pumps and compressors shall be provided with pressure relief devices to limit the discharge pressure to their maximum allowable working pressure. Section 14.2125 Hoses and arms. Hoses and arms used for transfer shall be suitable for the temperature and pressure of the operating conditions. Hoses shall be designed to have a bursting pressure of at least 5 times the maximum allowable working pressure of the equipment to which it is attached. Loading hoses or arms shall be supported to prevent displacement of the hoses and ends that results in greater stresses than those allowed in Appendix A of ANSIB 31.3. C. Couplings used for connection of a hose or arm shall be suitable for operating conditions and shall be designed for frequent coupling and uncoupling. Hoses shall be tested at least annually to the setting of the relief valve that protects the hose. Hoses shall be visually inspected for damage or defects before each use and shall not be used if any damage or defect is found. Section 14.2128 Communications and lighting. Emergency communications shall be provided near transfer locations so that the operator can contact remotely located personnel who are associated with the transfer operations. Transfer areas shall be illuminated during hours of darkness. Section 14.2131 Fire protection. Fire protection shall be provided for all LNG facilities as determined by sound fire protection engineering principles, analysis of local conditions, hazards within the facility, and exposure to or from other property. The evaluation shall determine at a minimum type, quantity and location of 1. Equipment necessary for the detection and control of fires, leaks, and spills of LNG, flammable refrigerants, flammable gases. 134. LNG Safety Rules.
Railroad Commission of Texas. 2.
2. Equipment necessary for the detection and control of potential non-process and electrical fires. 3. The methods necessary for protection of the equipment and structures from the effects of fire.
Railroad Commission of Texas. 2. Equipment necessary for the detection and control of potential non-process and electrical fires. 3. The methods necessary for protection of the equipment and structures from the effects of fire, plus fire protection water systems. 5. Fire extinguishing and other fire control equipment. 6. The availability and duties of employees and the availability of local emergency response organizations during an emergency. And 7. The protective equipment and special training needed by employees for their emergency duties. B. A detailed emergency response manual shall be prepared for potential emergency conditions. The procedure shall include but not be limited to 1. Shutdown or isolation of all or part of the equipment to ensure that the escape of gas or liquid is promptly stopped or reduced as much as possible. 2. Use of fire protection equipment. 3. Notification of emergency response organizations and public authorities. 4. First aid. And 5. Duties of employees. C. The emergency procedure manual shall be available in the operating ARCA and shall be updated as required by changes in equipment or procedures. D. Employees engaged in LNG activities shall be trained in emergency duties and procedures. Refresher training shall be conducted at least once every 2 years. E. Fire control measures shall be coordinated with the local fire and emergency response organizations. Left parenthesis. And safety and fire protection equipment shall be visually inspected at least once a month and tested at least once a year. Documentation shall be maintained on inspections and tests for at least 2 years or consistent with other safety record. Retention schedules whichever is greater. G. Maintenance on fire control equipment shall be scheduled so that a minimum of equipment is out of service at one time and fire protection safety is not compromised. Access routes for movement of fire control equipment to an LNG fueling facility shall be maintained at all times. H. Fire extinguishing and other fire control systems shall follow the local fire marshal's requirements and recommendations for the protection of specific hazards. 1. Dry chemical fire extinguishers suitable for extinguishing gas fires shall be provided at catch station area LNG installation. LNG Safety Rules 135.
Railroad Commission of Texas, $14.2134 Container Purging Procedures.
Railroad Commission of Texas, Section 14.2134 Container Purging Procedures. Only experienced and qualified personnel shall be responsible for container purging procedures. B. Prior to placing an LNG container into service, the air shall be displaced by an acceptable inerting procedure as described in American Gas Association Purging Principles and Practice, 1975 edition. C. Prior to taking a container out of service, the natural gas in the container shall be purged by an acceptable inerting procedure. D. The oxygen content of the container during purging operations shall be determined by an acceptable oxygen analyzer. Section 14.2137 Employee Safety and Training. An employee shall be advised of the hazards relative to LNG facility operations. B. Protective clothing and equipment shall be provided to employees for both normal operations and emergency response. C. Employees who handle and dispense LNG shall be trained in proper handling operating duties and procedures. D. Employees shall be trained upon employment and as needed thereafter, but no less than every 2 years. Training shall include the following. 1. Information on the nature, properties, and hazards of LNG in both the liquid and gaseous phases. 2. Specific instructions on the facility equipment to be used. 3. Use and care of protective equipment and clothing. 4. Standard first aid. 5. Response to emergency situations such as fire, leaks and spills. 6. Good housekeeping practices. 7. The emergency response plan. And 8. Evacuation and fire drills. E. Licensees or ultimate consumers shall retain employee safety training records for the past 4 years. 136. LNG Safety Rules.
Railroad Commission of Texas, Section 14.2140 Inspection and Maintenance.
Railroad Commission of Texas, Section 14.2140 Inspection and Maintenance. Licensees shall have a preventive maintenance program in place which includes a schedule of written procedures for regular testing and inspection of facility systems and equipment. B. Components and their related support systems shall be maintained in a condition that is compatible with their operation or safety purpose by repair, replacement or other means. C. If a safety device is taken out of service for maintenance, the component served by the device shall also be taken out of service unless the same safety function is provided by an alternate means. D. If the inadvertent operation of a component taken out of service could cause a hazardous condition, that component shall have a weather-resistant lag attached to the controls with the words, "Do not operate" or similar notice. E. The operations supervisor shall retain permanent records of dates and maintenance activities performed. 1. Welding, cutting and similar operations shall be prohibited within 25 feet of the container and the transfer area during transfer operations, and shall be conducted only as specifically authorized in a manner to prevent accidental ignition of LNG or NAMADLC fluids. Subchapter D. General Rules for LNG Fueling Facilities. Section 14.2301 Applicability. This subchapter applies to the design, construction, installation and operation of containers, pressure vessels, pumps, vaporization equipment, buildings, structures and associated equipment used for the storage and dispensing of LNG as an engine fuel for vehicles of all types. Section 14.2304 General Facility Design. A LNG fueling facilities shall be designed with provisions for securing all equipment in accordance with Section 14.2101 of this title, relating to uniform protection requirements. B. Structures and support of LNG fueling facility equipment, piping, controls and tanks shall be constructed of non-combustible material. C. Dicks, grading or diversion curbs shall be provided to prevent combustible or hazardous liquids from encroaching on the LNG refueling facility. D. LNG shall not be vented to the atmosphere under normal operations unless the vent leads to a safe point of discharge. Vent pipes or stacks shall have the open end suitably protected to prevent entrance of rain, snow and other foreign material. Vent stacks shall have provision for drainage. E. Instructions identifying the location and operation of emergency control shall be conspicuously posted in the facility area. LNG Safety Rules 137.
Railroad Commission of Texas. 1. LNG fueling facility containers, liquid impoundment areas, and points of transfer shall be located according to the distances specified in 14.2110 of this title, relating to LNG container installation distance requirements.
Railroad Commission of Texas. 0. LNG fueling facility containers, liquid impoundment areas, and points of transfer shall be located according to the distances specified in Section 14.2110 of this title, relating to LNG container installation distance requirements. G. LNG fueling facility containers may be sited above or below grade. Soil susceptible to freezing from contact with containers shall be heated directly or protected with an air space. H. Containers having outer jackets made of materials subject to corrosion shall be protected against corrosion. I. Vehicles delivering LNG to a facility or vehicles being fueled from a facility shall not be considered ignition sources. Vehicles containing fuel-fired equipment, such as recreational vehicles and catering trucks, shall be considered ignition sources unless the fuel-fired equipment is shut off completely before the vehicle enters an area in which ignition sources are prohibited. G. LNG fueling facilities which transfer LNG at night shall have permanent lighting at points of transfer and operation, including at least 2 lights with a total of at least 2 foot candles of power. K. Temperature monitoring systems shall be provided where the foundations supporting cryogenic containers and equipment could be adversely affected by freezing or frost heaving of the ground. Section 14.2307 Indoor fueling. Buildings reserved exclusively for LNG fueling shall be constructed of non-combustible or limited combustible material. Windows and doors shall be located to permit ready egress in case of emergency. B. Buildings used for indoor fueling shall meet the following requirements. 1. Indoor fusing facilities that are within a local fire marshal's jurisdiction shall obtain written approval from the local fire marshal, either by signature, seal or stamp on LNG Form 2500 or on a separate letter. 2. Indoor fueling facilities that are outside a local fire department's jurisdiction shall comply with the requirements of the Uniform Building Code, ELNG Form 2500, including plans and specifications, shall be filed with LP Gas Operations as specified in 14.2040 of this title, relating to filings and notice requirements for station on LNG installations. Section 14.2310 Emergency refueling. Licensees and non-licensees. such as mass transit authorities, may use a mobile refueling vehicle for emergency refueling provided it complies with the following requirements. 1. The gross vehicle weight, GVW, shall not exceed the GVW rating. Installation of the container shall not adversely affect the vehicle. 2. The vehicle used to transport the container shall comply with all DOT and Texas placarding requirements. 3. The LNG cargo container shall have a maximum water capacity of 200 gallons. 138. LNG safety rules.
Railroad Commission of Texas. 4. The container, fittings, and transfer equipment shall be properly secured against displacement.
Railroad Commission of Texas. 4. The container fittings and transfer equipment shall be properly secured against displacement. B. The individual performing the transfer of LNG shall be properly trained in all aspects of LNG transfer. C. Prior to the mobile refueling vehicle being placed into service, the licensee or non-licensed shall file with LP Gas Operations a drawing showing the mounting type of container, water capacity of the container, type of vehicle to be used, and the method of mounting. The vehicle shall not be placed into service until LP Gas Operations ensures that it complies with the applicable rules. D. Emergency refueling vehicles are not required to be registered with LP Gas Operations Section 14.2313 Fuel Dispensing Systems. Compliance with this section does not ensure conformity with other state and federal regulations such as those of the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality or the United States Environmental Protection Agency. Retail LNG dispensers shall comply with the applicable sites and measures requirements of the Texas Department of Agriculture relating to dispensing accuracy. B. Appurtenances and equipment placed into LNG service shall be listed by a Category 15, 20 or 50 licensee unless 1. The appurtenances or equipment are specifically prohibited for use by another section of the rules in this chapter. 2. There is no test specification or procedure developed by a testing laboratory for the appurtenances or equipment. C. Appurtenances and equipment that are labeled but not listed and are not prohibited for use by the rules in this chapter shall be acceptable and safe for LNG service over the full range of pressures and temperatures to which they will be subjected, under normal operating conditions. D. LP Gas Operations may require any documentation sufficient to substantiate any claims made regarding the safety of any valves, fittings, and equipment. E. Drive-away protection shall be provided. P. Emergency shutdown devices shall be distinctly marked for CASI recognition according to the requirements of Table 1 of Section 14.2101 of this title, relating to uniform protection requirements, and shall activate a valve installed at the dispensing area that shuts off the power and gas supply to the dispensers. ESD devices shall be located as follows. 1. For containers with water capacity of 93.240 gallons or less, an ESD device shall be located between 35 and 50 feet from the container. 2. For containers with water capacity of 93.241 gallons or more, an ESD device shall be located between 60 and 75 feet from the container. G. Manually operated container valves shall be provided for each container. H. Manually operated shutoff valves shall be installed in manifolds as close as practicable to a container or group of containers. LNG Safety Rules 139.
Railroad Commission of Texas. I. The use of hoses or arms of fueling installation is limited to.
Railroad Commission of Texas. 1. The use of hoses or arms in a fueling installation is limited to 1. A vehicle fueling hose. 2. An inlet connection to compression equipment or 3. A section of metallic hose not exceeding 36 inches in length in a pipeline to provide flexibility where necessary. Metallic hose shall be installed so that it will be protected against damage and be readily visible for inspection. The manufacturer's identification shall be retained for each section of metallic hose used, when a hose or arm of nominal 3-inch diameter or larger is used for liquid transfer or nominal 4-inch diameter or larger is used for vapor transfer. An emergency shutoff valve shall be installed in the piping of the transfer system less than 10 feet from the nearest end of the hose or arm. If the flow is away from the hose, a check valve may be used as the shutoff valve. If a liquid or vapor line has 2 or more legs, an emergency shutoff valve shall be installed in each leg. K. The fill line on storage container shall be equipped with a backflow check valve to prevent discharge of LNG from the container in case of line hose or fitting rupture. A fueling connection and mating vehicle receptacle shall be used to transfer LNG or gas vapor to or from the vehicle. An interlock device shall be provided so that the hose coupling cannot be released while the transfer line is open. Interlock devices are not required for transports when transferring luck to a stationary tank. 0. The maximum delivery pressure shall not exceed the maximum allowable working pressure of the vehicle and fuel tanks. Where excess flow check valves are used, the closing flow shall be less than the flow rating of the piping system that would result from a pipeline rupture between the excess flow valve and the equipment downstream of the excess flow check valve. Section 14.2316 Filings required for installation of fuel dispensers. After the installation of a fuel dispenser, LNG Form 2501 shall be filed with LP Gas Operations along with the required fees set forth in Section 14.2040 of this title, relating to filings and notice requirements for stationary LNG installations. Site plans shall detail the area within 150 feet of the dispenser and the fuel storage container or to the facility's property limit, whichever is less. Tentative approval shall be granted if the site plans indicate the installation will meet the requirements of the rules in this chapter and the Texas Natural Resources Code. Final approval shall be issued only after a field inspection confirms that the installed dispenser meets all the requirements of the rules in this chapter. Section 14.2319 Automatic Fuel Dispenser Safety Requirements. Automatic fuel dispenser shall be fabricated of material suitable for LNG and resistant to the action of LNG under ice conditions. Pressure-containing parts shall be stainless steel, brass, or other equivalent cryogenic material. Aluminum may be used for approved meters. Electric installations within dispenser enclosures and the entire pit or open space beneath dispenser shall comply with NEC. Class 1. Group D Division 1 except for dispenser components located at least 48 inches above the dispenser base which NEC states are intrinsically SAIL. 140. LNG Safety Rules.
Railroad Commission of Texas. C. Valve. Metering equipment, and other related equipment installed on automatic dispensers shall meet all applicable requirements of the rules in this chapter.
Railroad Commission of Texas. C. Valves. Metering equipment and other related equipment installed on automatic dispensers shall meet all applicable requirements of the rules in this chapter. D. Automatic dispensers shall be protected from damage by vehicle collision by fencing and guardrails installed in accordance with Section 14.2101 of this title, relating to uniform protection requirements. A device shall be installed in the liquid piping so that displacement of an automatic dispenser will result in the displacement of such piping on the downstream side of the device. D. The fuckling nozzle shall prevent LNG from being discharged unless the nozzle is connected to the vehicle. G. A key card or code system shall be used to activate the automatic dispenser. H. Automatic dispenser shall incorporate cutoff valves with opening and closing devices which ensure the valves are in a closed position when dispensers are deactivated. LNG fuel storage installations which include automatic dispensers shall be equipped with an emergency shutdown device for the entire LNG installation located at least 20 feet from the nearest dispenser or storage area. The emergency shutdown device shall be distinctly marked for CASI recognition in compliance with the requirements of Section 14.2101 of this title, relating to uniform protection requirements. If automatic dispensers are to be used during hours of darkness, permanent adequate lighting shall be provided to facilitate proper operations. Section 14.2322 Protection of automatic and other dispensers. Dispenser shall be secured to a concrete island at least 6 inches above the normal grade and 2 inches above the grade of any other liquid fuel dispenser. Dispenser shall be protected against collision damage by support columns or other such protection installed at the approach ends of the concrete island. If the protection described in subsections A and B of this section cannot be provided, the dispenser shall be protected as specified in Section 14.2101 of this title, relating to uniform protection requirements. Section 14.2325 LNG transport unloading at fueling facilities. Procedures and requirements for LNG transport unloading at fueling facilities shall be as specified in Section 14.2119 of this title, relating to transport vehicle loading and unloading facilities and procedures of this chapter. Section 14.2328 Training, written instructions, and procedures required. Dispensers may be operated only by an individual who has been properly trained in all aspects of the operation and safety procedures. LNG Safety Rules 141.
Railroad Commission of Texas. B. Any individual who operates a dispenser shall be provided with written instructions and safe operating procedures by the licensee. Step operating instructions provided by the manufacturer shall be posted at or on each dispenser and shall be readily visible to the operator during transfer operations. The instructions shall describe each action necessary to operate the dispenser.
Railroad Commission of Texas. B. Any individual who operates a dispenser shall be provided with written instructions and safe operating procedures by the licensee. Step-by-step operating instructions provided by the manufacturer shall be posted at or on each dispenser and shall be readily visible to the operator during transfer operations. The instructions shall describe each action necessary to operate the dispenser. C. Licensees or ultimate consumers shall maintain a current list of all individuals trained in the safe operation of dispensers. Subchapter E. Piping systems and components for all stationary LNG installations. Section 14.2401 General provisions for piping systems and components. Piping systems shall comply with ANSIB 31.3, Chemical Plant and Petroleum Refinery Piping. The additional provisions of this subchapter apply only to pressurized piping systems and components for LNG flammable refrigerants, flammable liquids and flammable gases, and unpressurized or low-pressure piping systems including vent lines and drain lines which handle LNG flammable refrigerants, flammable liquids and flammable gases with service temperatures below -20 degrees Fahrenheit. Section 14.2404 Piping materials. Piping materials including gaskets and thread compounds shall be suitable for use with LNG throughout the range of temperatures to which they will be subjected. The temperature limitations for pipe material shall be as specified in ANSIB 31.3. B. Piping which would be exposed during an emergency to the cold of an LNG or refrigerant spill or the heat of an ignited spill when thither exposure could result in a failure of the piping which would significantly increase the emergency shall be 1. Made of material that is suitable for both its normal operating temperature and the extreme temperatures to which it might be subjected during an emergency. 2. Protected by insulation or other means to delay failure due to such extreme temperatures until corrective action may be taken by the operator. Or 3. Capable of being isolated and having the flow stopped in piping that would be exposed only to the heat of an ignited spill during the emergency. C. Piping insulation used in areas where the mitigation of fire exposure is necessary shall be made of material which will not propagate fire and shall maintain any properties which are necessary during an emergency when exposed to fire heat cold, or whaler. D. Furnace lap weld, furnace butt weld, cast iron, malleable iron and ductile iron pipe shall be prohibited. 142. LNG Safety Rules.
Railroad Commission of Texas. C. When longitudinal or spiral weld pipe is used, welded with or without filler metal, the weld and heat affected zone shall comply with ANSIB 31.3, 323.2.2, and 14.2419 of this title, relating to welding at piping installations.
Railroad Commission of Texas. C. When longitudinal or spiral weld pipe is used, welded with or without filler metal, the weld and cal-alfxed ron shall comply with ANSIB 31.3, 323.2 and Section 14.2419 of this title, relating to welding at piping installations. 1. Threaded pipe shall be at least Schedule 80, G, a liquid line, including loading arms or hoses on a storage container, cold box or other major item of insulated equipment external to the outer shell or jacket husk. Failure can release a significant quantity of flammable fluid shall not be made of aluminum. copper or copper alloy or other material which has low resistance to flame temperatures unless such material is protected against fire exposure. Transition joints may be used if they are protected against fire exposure. Section 14.2407 Fittings used in piping. Cast iron, malleable iron, and ductile iron shall not be used in fittings. B. Threaded nipple shall be at least Schedule 80. C. Bends are permitted only in accordance with ANSIB 31.3. 329. D. Solid plugs or bull plugs made of at least Schedule 80 shall be used for threaded plugs. C. Compression-type couplings shall not be used where they will be subjected to temperatures below -20 degrees Fahrenheit unless such couplings met the requirements of ANSIB 31.3. 3ix Section 14.2410 Valves. Cast iron, malleable iron and ductile iron shall not be used in valves in piping. B. Extended bonnet valves with or without bellows seal should be used for service temperatures below -50 degrees Fahrenheit. Section 14.2413 Installation of piping. Bolted connections shall be designed to withstand thermal contraction and expansion. B. Pip joints larger than 2-inch nominal diameter shall be welded or flanged. Joints of 4-inch nominal diameter or less may be threaded where necessary for special connections to equipment provided that the special connection is not subject to fatigue-producing stresses. The number of threaded or flanged joints shall be kept to a minimum. Dissimilar mictile shall only be joined by flanges or transition joint techniques which will not be adversely affected by LNGC. Gasket material shall withstand as much as practicable exposure to fire. D. Piping and tubing shall be installed as directly as possible with provisions for expansion, contraction, jarring, vibration and settling. Underground piping shall be buried at least 18 inches below the ground surface unless otherwise protected. Refrigerated piping shall not be buried unless the surrounding soil is heated. LNG Safety Rules 143.
Railroad Commission of Texas, Section 14.2416 Installation of valves.
Railroad Commission of Texas, Section 14.2416 Installation of valves. Valves shall be installed to prevent leaking or malfunction due to freezing. Cryogenic liquid valves shall be installed at an angle greater than 45 degrees from horizontal. B. Isolation valves shall be provided on container tank and vessel connections, except for connections. 1. For relief valves. Shutoff valves are only permitted at connections for relief valves in accordance with ASME Code. Section 8, Division 1, Paragraphs UG 125, D, and Appendix M Paragraphs M5 and M6. 2. For liquid level alarms required by Section 14.2501 of this title, relating to liquid level gauging, or 3. That are blind flanged or plugged. C. Shutoff valves shall be located inside the impounding area as close as practicable to the container's tanks and vessels. D. Internal valves shall be designed and installed so that any failure of the nozzle will be downstream of the seat of the internal valve itself. E. The number of shutoff valves installed shall be kept to the minimum required for efficient and safe operation of each facility. 1. Piping systems shall be designed to limit the contained volume that could be discharged in the event of a piping system failure. Sufficient valves which can be operated both at the installed location and from a remote location to shut down the process and transfer systems in the event of an emergency shall be installed. G. Container connections larger than 1-inch pipe size through which liquid can escape shall be equipped with 1. A valve which closes automatically if exposed to fire, or 2. A remotely controlled quick closing valve which shall remain closed except during the operating period. 3. A fail closed valve, or 4. A check valve on filling connections. HESD valves shall be single-purpose valves. I. Valves and valve control shall be designed to permit operation under icing conditions if such conditions are possible. I. Powered control shall be provided for emergency shutoff valves that would require excessive time to manually operate during an emergency or if the valve is 8 inches or larger in size. A means for manual operation shall also be provided. 144. LNG Safety Rules.
Railroad Commission of Texas, Section 14.2419 Welding at piping installations.
Railroad Commission of Texas, Section 14.2419 Welding at piping installations. Qualification and performance of welders shall comply with ANSIB 31.3. Oxygen fuel gas welding is prohibited on piping for service temperatures below -20 degrees Fahrenheit. Electric or inert gas shielded welding are permissible. Section 14.2422 Pipe marking and identification. Markings on pipe shall be made with a material compatible with the basic material or with a round bottom low stress die. Materials less than 1/4 inch in thickness shall not be die stamped. B. Marking materials that are corrosive to the pipe material shall not be used. C. Piping shall be identified by color coding, painting or labelling so as to be readily readable. Section 14.2425 Pipe supports. Pipe supports including insulation systems used to support pipe whose integrity is essential to facility safety shall be resistant to or protected from fire exposure, escaping cold liquid or both if such exposure is possible. B. Pipe supports for cold lines shall be designed to prevent excessive heat transfer which can result in piping restraints caused by ice formations or embrittlement of supporting steel. Design of supporting elements shall conform with ANSIB 31.3. 321 Section 14.2428 Inspection and testing of piping. Pressure tests shall be conducted in accordance with ANSIB 31.3. 337. B. Pressure test medium temperature and ambient temperature shall be recorded for the duration of each test and these records shall be maintained for the life of the facility or until such time as a retest is conducted. Section 14.2431 Welded pipe tests. A longitudinal or spiral welded pipe which will be subjected to service temperatures below 20 degrees Fahrenheit shall have a design pressure of less than 2/3 of the mill-proof test pressure or subsequent shop or field hydrostatic test pressure except for pipe which has been subjected to 100% radiographic or ultrasonic inspection of the longitudinal or spiral weld. B. Circumferential butt welds shall be fully examined by radiographic or ultrasonic inspection. Piping with an operating pressure that produces a hoop stress of less than 20% specified minimum Y equals stress need not be non-destructible tested provided it has been visually inspected in accordance with ANSIB 31.3. 336. 4. 2. C. Socket welds and fillet welds shall be fully examined by liquid penetrant. D. Fully penetrated groove welds for branch connections required by ANSIB 31.3. 327. 4. 4 shall be fully examined by in-process examination in accordance with ANSIB 31.3. 336. 4. 7 and shall also be examined by liquid penetrant after the final pass of the weld. If specified in the engineering design or specifically authorized by the inspector, examination by radiographic or ultrasonic techniques may be substituted for the examinations required by this paragraph. LNG Safety Rules 145.
Railroad Commission of Texas. E. Non-destructive examination methods, limitations on defects, qualifications of the authorized inspector, and personnel performing the examination shall meet the requirements of ANSIB 31.3. 336.
Railroad Commission of Texas. E. Non-destructive examination methods, limitations on defects, qualifications of the authorized inspector, and personnel performing the examination shall meet the requirements of ANSIB 31.3. 336. 1. Test records and written procedures required when conducting non-destructive examinations shall be maintained for the life of the piping system or until such time as a re-examination is conducted. G. Records and certifications pertaining to materials components, and heat treatment as required by ANSIB 31.3. 336. 5. 1. C. and 336. 5. 3. D. shall be maintained for the life of the system. Section 14.2434 Purging of piping systems. Piping systems shall be purged of air or gas in a safe manner. Blowdown and purge connections shall be provided to facilitate purging of all process and flammable gas piping. Such connections shall be installed to eliminate all hazards to a safe operating condition. Section 14.2437 Pressure and relief valves in piping. Pressure relieving safety devices shall be installed to minimize damage to equipment and personnel. The means for adjusting relief valve set pressure shall be sealed. B. Thermal expansion relief valves shall be installed to prevent overpressure in any section of cold liquid or cold vapor piping which can be isolated by valves. E. Thermal expansion relief valves shall be set to discharge above the maximum pressure normally expected in the line but less than the rated test pressure of the line they protect. D. Discharge from the valve shall be directed to minimize hazard to personnel or equipment, and the discharge location shall be approved by LP Gas Operations Section 14.2440 Corrosion Control. Underground and submerged piping shall be protected and maintained in accordance with the National Association of Corrosion Engineers Standard RP 01-69M. Control of external corrosion of underground or submerged metallic piping systems. B. Austenitic stainless steels and aluminum alloy shall be protected to minimize corrosion and pitting from corrosive atmospheric and industrial substances during storage, construction, fabrication, testing and service. 146. LNG safety rules.
Railroad Commission of Texas. Subchapter F, Instrumentation and Electrical Services.
Railroad Commission of Texas. Subchapter F, Instrumentation and Electrical Services. Section 14.2501 Liquid Level Gauging. A LNG container shall be equipped with liquid level gauging devices. Density variations shall be considered in the selection of the gauging device. Consideration shall be given to a secondary or backup gauge. At least one of these gauges shall be replaceable without taking the container out of operations. B. When the container filling rate is greater than 1.0% per day, the container shall be provided with a high liquid level lamp which shall be spared from the liquid leset gauging device. The Allen shall be set so that the operator will have sufficient time to stop the flow without exceeding the maximum permissible filling height, and shall be located so that it is visible and audible to personnel controlling the filling. A high liquid level flow cutoff device, if used, shall not substitute for the alarm. C. Containers with a capacity of 3.240 gallons or less which are continuously attended during the filling operation may be equipped with tricox in lieu of the high liquid level alarm. Section 14.2504 Pressure gauges. LNG containers shall be equipped with a pressure gauge connected to the container at the point above the maximum intended liquid level. Section 14.2507 Vacuum gauges. Vacuum-jacketed containers shall be equipped with instruments or connections for checking the absolute pressure in the annular space. Section 14.2510 Emergency failsafe. Facilities shall be designed so that if power or instrument air fails, the system will go into a failsafe condition that will be maintained until the operator can take appropriate action to either reactivate or secure the system. Section 14.2513 Electrical equipment. Electrical equipment and wiring shall be installed in accordance with the applicable sections of NEC. B. Fixed electrical equipment and wiring installed within the ARCA specified in Table I of subsection H of this section shall comply with the requirements specified. C. Scales, barriers or other means used to comply with this section shall be designed to prevent the passage of flammable fluids through the conduit, stranded conductors and cables. Such means may include but not be limited to 1. A physical interruption of the conduit run and of the stranded conductors through the use of an adequately vented junction box containing terminal strip or bus bar connections. LNG Safety Rules 147.
Railroad Commission of Texas. 2. An exposed section of ME cable using suitable fittings, or
Railroad Commission of Texas. 2. An exposed section of MI cable using suitable fittings, or 3. An exposed section of single conductor which is incapable of transmitting gases or vapors. D. A primary seal shall be provided between the flammable fluid system and the electrical conduit wiring system. If the failure of the primary seal would allow the passage of flammable fluids to another portion of the conduit or wiring system, an additional seal shall be provided to prevent the passage of the flammable fluid beyond the additional device or means, unless specifically designed and approved for the purpose. The seals specified in this section are not intended to replace the conduit seals required in NEC 1. Where primary seals are installed, drains, vents or other devices shall be provided for monitoring purposes to detect flammable fluids and leaking. G. Primary seals shall be designed to withstand the service conditions to which they may be exposed. Additional seals or barriers and interconnecting enclosures shall meet the pressure and temperature requirements of the condition to which they could be exposed in the event of failure of the primary seal, unless other approved means are provided to accomplish this purpose. H. The classified ARCAS described in Table I of this section shall not extend beyond an unpierced wall, roof or solid vapor-tight partition. Figure 16 TAC Section 14.2513. H. Table 1 Group D. Division extent of classified area location LNG storage container area, indoors, outdoors above-ground containers, other than small containers that are portable and less than 200 gallons aggregate water capacity, pits, trenches or sumps located in or adjacent to Division 1 or 2 areas, transport vehicle and container loading and unloading, outdoors in open air at or above grade open area between a high-type dike and container wall where dike wall height exceeds distance between dike and container walls, within 15 feet in all directions from container walls and roof plus area inside a low-type dike or impounding area up to the height of the dike impoundment, entire pit trench or sump. 2. Electrical scales and vents Specialite M Subchapter F of this title, relating to instrumentation and electrical services. 2. Within 5 feet in all directions from connections regularly made or disconnected for product transfer. Between 5 and 15 lead in all directions from a point where connections are regularly made or disconnected and within the cylindrical volume between the horizontal equator of the sphere and the grade within 15 feet in all directions from the equipment, and within the cylindrical volume between the horizontal equator and grade. 148. LNG safety rules.
Railroad Commission of Texas, $14.2516 electrical grounding and bonding.
Railroad Commission of Texas, Section 14.2516 Electrical grounding and bonding. Electrical grounding and bonding shall be provided as recommended by NFPA 77. Static electricity, Sections 5.4 and 6, 1, 3 and as required by the NECB. Static protection is not required when container chickles are loaded or unloaded by conductive or non-conductive hose, flexible metallic tubing or pipe connections through or from tight top or bottom outlets where both halves of metallic couplings are in contact. C. If stray currents may be present or if impressed currents are used on loading and unloading systems such as for cathodic protection, protective measures to prevent ignition shall be taken in accordance with APIRP 2003. Protection against ignitions arising out of static, lightning and stray currents. D. Grounding shall be provided for tanks supported on non-conductive foundations. Metal storage containers and tanks do not require lightning protection. Subchapter G. Engine fuel systems Section 14.2601 Applicability. This subchapter applies to the design, installation, inspection and testing of LNG fuel supply systems for vehicle engines and other engines installed on a vehicle. Section 14.2604 System component qualification. Components in the engine compartment normally in contact with LNG shall be suitable for service over a range of temperatures of -260 degrees Fahrenheit to +250 degrees Fahrenheit. Other components not normally in contact with LNG shall be suitable for senice over a range of 0 degrees Fahrenheit to +250 degrees Fahrenheit. B. Components outside the engine compartment normally in contact with LNG shall be suitable for service over a range of temperatures from -260 degrees Fahrenheit to +180 degrees Fahrenheit. Other components not normally in contact with LNG shall be suitable for service over a range from 40 degrees Fahrenheit to +180 degrees Fahrenheit. C. Fuel carrying components, excluding senice valves, tubing and fittings, shall be labeled or stamped with the following: 1. The manufacturer's name or symbol. 2. The model designation. 3. The maximum allowable working pressure. 4. The design temperature range. 5. Direction of flow of fuel when necessary for correct installation. And 6. Capacity or electrical rating as applicable. LNG Safety Rules 149.
Railroad Commission of Texas, Section 14.2607 Vehicle fuel containers.
Railroad Commission of Texas, Section 14.2607 Vehicle fuel containers. Containers shall be designed, tested, and marked or stamped in accordance with DOT Specification 4L or ASMA Code. Rules for the construction of pressure vessels. Section 8. Division 1 applicable on the date of manufacture. B. The owner of a container shall be responsible for its suitability for continued service. E. Repair or alteration of containers shall comply with the code under which that container was fabricated. Licensees making repairs or alterations shall file LNG Form 2008 with LP Gas Operations. D. Container shall be equipped with a dip tube or other device so that the maximum filling volume of the container complies with Section 14.2107 of this title, relating to stationary LNG storage containers. Containers shall be constructed so that the unrelieved pressure inside the container shall not exceed the maximum allowable working pressure of the container within a 72-hour period at an ambient temperature of 70 degrees Fahrenheit after the container has been filled with LNG stabilized at the maximum allowable working pressure and temperature equilibrium has been established. 1. Connections for pressure relief valves shall be located and installed to communicate directly with the vapor space. Containers shall have permanent identification markings, decals or stencils to identify 1. The total volumetric capacity of the container in gallons. 2. The words, "For LNG only," in capital letters at least 1 inch high in a location that is visible after installation. And 3. All inlets and outlets except relief valves and gauging devices, designating whether they communicate with vapor or liquid space. Container appurtenances shall be fabricated of materials suitable for LNG service. Pressure-containing metal parts of appurtenances, except fusible clements, shall have a minimum melting point of plus 1500 degrees Fahrenheit. Container appurtenances shall have a rated maximum allowable working pressure not less than the maximum allowable working pressure of the container. 8. Containers shall be equipped with the pressure relief devices and pressure control valves required by the code or regulations under which the containers were designed. The pressure relief devices and pressure control valves shall communicate directly with the vapor space of the container, and shall be designed to minimize the possibility of tampering. Externally set or adjusted valves shall be provided with a means of sealing the adjustment. 1. Valves shall be readily accessible and operable without the use of tools. A shutoff valve shall be installed directly on the container vapor outlet with no intervening fitting other than pressure relief devices and shall be marked with the words vapor shutoff valve. Another shutoff valve shall be installed directly on the container liquid outlet and shall be marked with the words liquid shutoff valve. The markings shall be in capital letters. Decals or stencils are acceptable. Normally closed automatic shutoff valves that are held open by electric current or manually operated shutoff valves may be used. 150. LNG safety rules.
Railroad Commission of Texas, Section 14.2610 Installation of vehicle fuel containers.
Railroad Commission of Texas, Section 14.2610 Installation of vehicle fuel containers. Vehicle fuel containers shall comply with the following specifications. 1. Fuel containers on vehicles other than school buses, mass transit or other vehicles used in public transportation may be located within, below or above the driver or passenger compartments provided all connections to the containers are external, to or scaled and vented from those compartments. The motor fuel containers installed on a special transit vehicle may be installed in the passenger compartment provided all connections to the containers are external to or sealed and vented from those compartments. 2. Fuel supply components and containers shall be mounted in a location to minimize damage from collision. No part of a container or its appurtenances shall protrude beyond any part of the vehicle at the point of installation. 3. Fuel systems shall be installed with as much road or ground clearance as practicable but not less than the minimum road or ground clearance of the vehicle when loaded to its gross vehicle weight rating. The minimum distance shall be measured from the lowest part of the fuel system. 4. No portion of a fuel supply container or container appurtenance shall be located ahead of the front axle or behind the rear bumper mounting face of a vehicle. Fuel container valves shall be protected from physical damage using the vehicle structure valve protectors or a suitable metal shield. 5. Fuel supply containers located less than 8 inches from the exhaust system shall be shielded from direct heat. 6. Mounting shall minimize fretting corrosion between the fuel container and the mounting system by means of rubber insulators or other suitable means. 7. Fuel containers shall not be installed where they would adversely affect the driving characteristics of the vehicle. 8. Fuel containers on school buses or mass transit vehicles shall be installed on the underside of the vehicle except as specified in subsection C of this section. Fuel containers on special transit vehicles shall be installed in a location which will not interfere with vehicle operation. 9. Fuel containers appurtenances and connections may be enclosed in a shroud-type structure provided it is securely attached to the container and liquid tight. The shroud access door shall be secured in place by fasteners such as wing nuts or spring-loaded latches and shall not require the use of tools for removal. The use of locks on shroud access doors is prohibited. B. Fuel supply containers shall be connected or mounted to comply with the following specifications. 1. Fuel supply container connections shall be external to or sealed and vented from the driver and passenger compartments or any space containing radio transmitters or other spark-producing equipment. 2. Container brackets shall be secured to the vehicle body bed or frame with bolts, lock washers and nuts or self-locking nuts of a size and strength capable of withstanding a static force in any direction of 8 times the weight of a full container for vehicles with gross vehicle weights of 19.500 pounds or less and 4 times the weight of a full container for vehicles with gross vehicle weights of 19.501 pounds or more. Mounting brackets shall be marked with the manufacturer's name or logo. If self-locking nuts are installed, they shall not be reused once they are removed. LNG Safety Rules 151.
Railroad Commission of Texas. Container mounting brackets shall prevent the container from jarring loose, slipping, or rotating.
Railroad Commission of Texas. Container mounting brackets shall prevent the container from jarring loose, slipping, or rotating. 3. Fuel supply containers shall be secured in the mounting brackets by bolts, lock washers, and nuts or self-locking nuts of a size and strength capable of withstanding a static force applied in any direction 8 times the weight of the full container for vehicles with gross vehicle weights of 19.500 pounds or less, and 4 times the weight of a full container for vehicles with gross vehicle weights of 19.501 pounds or more. If self-locking nuts are installed, the nuts shall not be reused once they are removed. 4. The weight of the fuel container shall not be supported by the outlet, service valves, manifolds, or other fuel connections. 5. Containers shall be secured to a school bus, mass transit, or special transit chicle frame excluding the floor by container fastenings or mounting brackets described in subsection B of this section. The fastenings or brackets shall be secured to the frame backing plates or other supporting structure without compromising the strength of that structure. C. Roof-mounted containers are allowed if the vehicle was originally designed and manufactured to have roof-mounted containers or if the original manufacturer approves the design of the structure mounting. Vehicles shall not be modified to have roof-mounted containers. D. Container markings shall be readable after a container is permanently installed on a vehicle. A portable lamp or mirror may be used to read markings. E. Where an LNG container is substituted for the fuel container installed by the original manufacturer of the vehicle, whether or not that fuel container was for LNG, the LNG container shall either fit within the space in which the original fuel container was installed or comply with subsection A of this section. 1. If necessary, a plumbing chamber door shall be provided in the sidewall of the school bus, mass transit, or special transit vehicle to allow for CASI access for filling or skewering the service valve in the event of an emergency. The plumbing chamber door shall be hinged and latched but not locked. Section 14.2613 Engine fuel delivery equipment. A vaporizer shall completely vaporize the LNG and heat the vapor to the appropriate temperature prior to the vapor entering the pressure regulator when the vaporizer is subjected to the maximum fuel flow rate. Vaporizer shall be permanently marked at a readily visible point with the maximum allowable working pressure of the fuel-containing portion of the vaporizer. Engine exhaust gases may be used as a direct source of heat to vaporize the fuel if the materials of construction of those parts of the vaporizer in contact with the exhaust gases are resistant to corrosion from those gases. B. Pressure regulator inlets and chambers shall have a maximum allowable working pressure of at least the maximum allowable working pressure of the container. C. Pressure gauges shall be designed for the pressure and temperature conditions to which they may be subjected with a burst pressure safety factor of at least 4. Dials shall be graduated to read at least 1.2 times the pressure at which a pressure relief device is set to function. Gauges shall have an opening not to exceed 0.055 inches. Number 54 drill size. At the inlet connection. D. Pipe, tubing, and fittings between the chicular fuel container and the pressure regulator shall be designed to withstand. 152. LNG safety rules.
A pressure of at least 2 times the maximum allowable working pressure of the container.
Railroad Commission of Texas. A pressure of at least 2 times the maximum allowable working pressure of the container. 1. Gaskets and packing material shall be suitable for the intended service. 2. Pipe shall be stainless steel, brass or copper and shall comply with the following. A. Stainless steel pipe. ANSI B36.19. Specification for stainless sisal pipe. ASTM A312. B. Brass pipe. ANSI H27.1. Specification for scamless red brass pipe. Standard CC. ASTM B43. C. Copper pipe. ANSI H26. I. Specification for scamless copper pipe. Standard sizes. ASTM B42. 3. Tubing shall be stainless steel, brass or copper and shall comply with the following. A. Stainless steel tubing. ANSI B31.3. Specification for scamless and welded austenitic cell tubing for general service. ASTM A269. B. Copper tubing. Type K or LANSI H23.1. Specification for scamless copper water tube. ASTM B88. C. Copper tubing. ANSI H23.5. Specification for scamless copper tube for air conditioning and refrigeration field service. ASTM B280. Or D. Brass tubing. ANSI H36.1. Specification for scamless brass tube. ASTM B135. Plus, pipe and tube fittings shall be stainless cell brass or copper. Pipe joints shall be threaded, welded or brazed. Tubing joints shall be flared, welded, brazed or made with tube fittings. Section 14.2616. Installation of venting systems and monitoring sensors. Pressure relief devices and pressure carrying components installed within a closed compartment shall be vented to the outside of the vehicle in a suitable location. B. Vents shall not exit into a wheel well. C. Vents shall not restrict the operation of a fuel container pressure relief device or pressure relief device channel. Vent lines shall be located and skewered to permit the required relief discharge capacity and to minimize the possibility of physical damage. D. Vent lines shall be equipped with mechanisms to minimize the possibility of water or other foreign material from entering the relief device or vent line. Such means shall remain in place except when the relief device operates and shall permit the relief device to operate at the required capacity. E. Escaping gas shall not impinge on fuel supply containers and shall not be directed into wheel wells at individuals or other vehicles in traffic at the engine air intake or in a manner that would create a hazard. 1. Safety relief valve discharge shall be directed or vented so that any gas released will not directly impinge upon containers, any part of the vehicle, adjacent individuals or vehicles, or the inside of the passenger or luggage compartment. LNG Safety Rules 153.
Railroad Commission of Texas. G. At least 2 monitoring sensors shall be installed on all LNG fueled vehicles to detect hazardous levels of LNG. Sensors shall activate at not more than 20% of the lower flammable limit of LNG if the level exceeds 1/5 of the LFL. The sensor shall either shut the system down or activate an audible and visual alarm. The number of sensors to be installed shall comply with the area of coverage for each sensor and the size of the vehicle. The sensors shall be installed and maintained in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions.
Railroad Commission of Texas. G. At least 2 monitoring sensors shall be installed on all LNG-fueled vehicles to detect hazardous levels of LNG. Sensors shall activate at not more than 20% of the JOWR flammable limit of LNG if the level exceeds 1/5 of the IFL. The sensor shall either shut the system down or activate an audible and visual alarm. The number of sensors to be installed shall comply with the area of coverage for each sensor and the size of the vehicle. The sensor shall be installed and maintained in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions. Section 14.2619. Installation of piping. Piping that carries fuel shall be fabricated to minimize vibration and shall be shielded or installed in a protected location to prevent damage from unsecured objects. B. Fuel lines shall be mounted, braced and supported to minimize vibration and protected against damage, corrosion or breaking due to strain or wear. Fuel lines shall be supported at least every 21 to 27 inches. C. Fuel lines passing through a panel shall be protected against abrasion by grommets or similar devices such as liddings, which shall snugly fit both the supply lines and the holes in the panel. D. Fuel lines shall have a minimum clearance of 8 inches from the engine exhaust system or shall be shielded against direct heat. C. Piping or tubing shall pass through the floor of a vehicle directly beneath or adjacent to the container. If a branch line is required, the ICE connection shall be in the main fuel line under the floor and outside the vehicle. 1 hydrostatic relief valve shall be installed in each section of piping or tubing in which LNG can be isolated between shutoff valves to relieve to a safe atmosphere the pressure which could develop from the trapped fuel. The pressure relief valve shall have a pressure not greater than the maximum allowable working pressure of the line it protects. G. Joint compound or tape acceptable for use with LNG shall be applied to all male pipe threads prior to assembly. H. Piping and fittings shall be clean and free from cutting or threading burrs and scaling. The ends of all piping shall be reamed. I. Bends in piping or tubing are prohibited if the bend weakens the pipe or tubing. Bends shall be made by bending tools designated for this purpose. I. Joints or connections shall be located only in an accessible location. K. Fuel connections between a tractor and trailer or other vehicle units are prohibited. Section 14.2622 Installation of valves. Valves, valve packings, gaskets, and seats shall be suitable for the intended service and shall comply with the following. 1. Shutoff valves shall have a maximum allowable working pressure of at least the maximum allowable working pressure of the container. Leakage shall not occur at less than 1/2 times the maximum allowable working pressure of the valve. 154. LNG safety rules.
Railroad Commission of Texas. 2. Valve parts, except gaskets, packing, and seats that come in contact with the fuel shall be stainless steel, brass, or copper.
Railroad Commission of Texas. 2. Valve parts except gaskets, packing, and seats that come in contact with the fuel shall be stainless steel, brass, or copper, and unsecured objects. B. Valves shall be securely mounted and shielded or installed in a protected location to minimize damage from vibration. C. In vehicles whose engines do not incorporate an automatic shutoff in the engine fuel system, a positive shutoff valve C shall be installed in the fuel supply line at the inlet to the pressure regulator. The shutoff valves shall automatically close and present the flow of fuel to the engine when the ignition switch is off or in the accessory position, or when the engine is not running and the ignition switch is on. D. When multiple fuel systems are installed on the article, automatic SAL-CS shall be provided as necessary to shut off the fuel not being used. E. Fuckling systems shall be equipped with a backflow check valve which will prevent the return of gas from the container to the filling connection. 1. Valves shall be installed so that their weight is not placed on or supported by the attached lines. Section 14.2625 Installation of pressure gauges. Pressure gauges located within driver or passenger compartments shall be installed so that no gas will flow through the gauge in the event of failure. Installed gauges shall be readily visible by the driver. B. Pressure gauges installed outside driver or passenger compartments shall be equipped with a limiting orifice, a shatterproof dial lens, and a body relief. C. Gauges shall be securely mounted, shielded, and installed in a protected location to prevent damage from vibration and unsecured objects. Section 14.2628 Installation of pressure regulators. Automatic pressure reducing regulators shall be installed to reduce the fuel container pressure to a level consistent with the maximum allowable working pressure required by the engine fuel system if the primary relief valve setting to the fuel container exceeds the maximum allowable engine inlet fuel pressure, and automatic pressure reducing regulator. B. Means shall be provided to prevent regulator malfunctions due to low temperatures. C. Regulators shall be installed so that their weight is not placed on or supported by the attached gas lines. Section 14.2631 Wiring. Wiring shall be installed, supported, and secured in a manner to prevent damage due to vibration, shock, strains, wear, or corrosion. B. Wiring shall be sized and fusk protected with the size and fuse rating adequate for the current draw. LNG Safety Rules 155.
Railroad Commission of Texas. 14.2634 Vehicle fueling connection.
Railroad Commission of Texas. Section 14.2634 Vehicle fueling connection. Vehicle fueling connections shall provide for the reliable and secure connection of the fuel system containers to a source of LNG. B. Fueling connections shall be designed for the pressure expected under normal conditions and corrosive conditions which might occur. C. Fueling connections shall prevent escape of gas when the connector is not properly engaged or becomes separated. D. Refueling receptacles on engine fuel systems shall be firmly supported and shall 1. Receive the fueling connector and accommodate the maximum allowable working pressure of the vehicle fuel system. 2. Incorporate a means to prevent the entry of dust, water, and other foreign material. If the means used is capable of sealing system pressure, it shall be capable of being depressurized before removal. And 3. Have a different fuckling connection for catch pressure base S Chicle Fuckle System Section 14.2637 Signs and labeling. Signs or labels shall be readily visible before and during transfer operations, shall be weather resistant and shall be located as specified in Table I of this section. Figure 16 TAC Section 14.2637. Requirements for signs or labels. Table 1. Fueling connection receptacle engine compartment. Capital letters at least 2 inches high. Any color letters with contrasting background. LNG fueled vehicle. Any color letters with contrasting background. Name of licensee and license number. Not required for systems installed by OEM or OEM subcontractor. Any color letters and numbers with contrasting background. Maximum allowable working pressure. Any color letters with contrasting background. Container capacity gallons. 156. LNG safety rules.
Railroad Commission of Texas. B. Vehicles shall be identified with a weather-resistant diamond-shaped label located on an exterior vertical or near vertical surface on the lower right rear of the vehicle, excluding the bumper, inboard of any other markings. The label shall be at least 4 3/4 inches by 3 1/4 inches. The marking shall consist of a border and the capital letters. LNG. The letters shall be at least 1 inch tall, and be silver or white reflective luminous material on a blue or black background.
Railroad Commission of Texas. B. Vehicle shall be identified with a weather-resistant diamond-shaped label located on an exterior vertical or in-car vertical surface on the lower right rear of the vehicle, excluding the bumper, inboard of any other markings. The label shall be at least 4 3/4 inches by 3 1/4 inches. The marking shall consist of a border and the capital letters. LNG. The letters shall be at least 1 inch tall and be silver or white reflective luminous material on a black or black background. C. Upon completion of a vehicle conversion, the license making the conversion shall affix to the vehicle an identification tag or decal in a location that is easily readable. The tag or decal shall contain letters that indicate the license's name, current license number, and the year and month the conversion was made. Section 14.2640 System testing. The complete LNG engine fuel system shall be leak tested. B. After installation, the piping and connections that are subject to container pressure shall be checked with a non-ammonia soap solution or a leak detector instrument after the equipment is connected and pressurized to its 90% of maximum allowable working pressure of the container. C. If the completed LNG engine fuel system is leak tested with natural gas, the testing shall be done under adequately ventilated conditions. D. If an LNG container is involved in an accident or fire causing damage to the container shall be replaced or removed and returned to a currently licensed Category 15, 20 or 50 licensee to be inspected and retested in accordance with the original manufacturer's specifications. The licensee who performs any repair, modification or lesting of a container shall file LNG Form 2008 with LP Gas Operations before the container is returned to SENICE. C. If a vehicle is involved in an accident or fire causing damage to any part of the LNG engine fuel system, the system shall be replaced or repaired as provided in these regulations and retested before it is returned to service. Section 14.2643. Maintenance and repair. The owner or user or both shall maintain containers, container appurtenances, piping systems, venting systems and other components in a safe condition. B. Repair or alteration of pressure relief devices and fuel lines is prohibited. Damaged pressure relief devices and fuel lines shall be replaced. Subchapter H. LNG Transport. Section 14.2701 DOT Requirements. This subchapter applies to transport containers used in the transportation and distribution of LNG. LNG transports shall comply with the requirements of DOT Specification MAC 338 and the applicable parts of Title 49, Code of Federal Regulations, Parts 171-180. LNG Safety Rules 157.
Railroad Commission of Texas. 14.2704 Registration and transfer of LNG transports.
Railroad Commission of Texas. Section 14.270 for registration and transfer of LNG transports. A person who operates an LNG transport as defined in this chapter, regardless of who owns the transport, shall register the transport with IP. Gas operations in the name or names under which the operator conducts business in Texas prior to the transport being used in LNG service in Texas. 1. To register a unit previously unregistered in Texas, the operator of the unit shall a. Pay to LP Gas Operations the S-270 registration fee for each transport truck, semi-trailer or other motor vehicle equipped with an LNG cargo tank, and b. File a properly completed LNG Form 2007. 2. To register a unit which was previously registered in Texas but for which the registration has expired, the operator of the unit shall a. Pay to LP Gas Operations the $270 registration fee, b. File a properly completed LNG FON 2007. C. File a copy of the latest test results if an expired unit has not been used in the transportation of LNG for over 1 year. 3. To transfer a unit, the new owner of the transport shall a. Pay the $100 transfer fee for each unit, and b. File a properly completed LNG Form 2007. b. LP Gas Operations may also request an operator registering or transferring any unit to file a copy of the manufacturer's data report or a copy of the DOT certification issued by the manufacturer and/or subframer who prepared the unit for road use, or any other documentation to show the container complies with MAC 338. C. When all registration or transfer requirements have been met, LP Gas Operations shall issue LNG Form 2004 or letter of authority which shall be properly affixed as instructed on the decal or letter or maintained on the bobtail or transport trailer. ING Form 2004 or letter of authority shall authorize the licensee or ultimate consumer to whom it has been issued and no other person to operate such unit in the transportation of LNG and to fill the transport containers. 1. A person shall not operate an LNG transport unit or introduce LNG into a transport container in Texas unless the LNG Form 2004 or letter of authority has been properly affixed as instructed on the decal or the letter or maintained on the bobtail or transport trailer or unless its operation has been specifically approved by LP Gas Operations. 2. LNG Form 2004 or letter of authority shall not be transferable by the person to whom it has been issued but shall be registered by any subsequent licensee or ultimate consumer prior to the unit being placed into LNG service. 3. This section shall not apply to 158. LNG safety rules.